So now for round two, we have Terry Funk versus Tiger Jeet Singh, who start brawling on the outside again. And at one point, Jeet Singh has Funk down with his head over a chair and has the sword up above his head like he's getting ready to behead him, but then he just hits him with the handle. It's supposed to be a bed of glass match, but at no point does it really seem like it's a factor. I think Terry Funk fell on it once, but that's about it. The match ends with Jeet Singh holding on to Terry Funk, which allows Mick Foley to come to the ring, who attempts to hit Funk with a sword, but he moves and Jeet Singh is nailed, and Funk gets the pin. I don't know what that was about. Maybe Jeet Singh didn't want to do the clean job for some reason, but just seems like a strange way to end this tournament match after everything else that's been going on tonight. So now we have Cactus Jack versus Shoji Nakamaki in a bed of nails match. Obviously not as good of a match as Cactus Jack versus Terry Gordy was, but now we have Cactus Jack wrestling more offensively. The bed of nails is put into the corner and both guys fall into it a couple times, but for the most part they stay away from it. They do a 6 spot where Nakamaki is outside and Cactus Jack puts the bed of nails over him, and then he does his famous running elbow from the apron onto it. That looked pretty nasty, and Nakamaki doesn't no-sell it like he did everything earlier, but he does kick out of the pin that's attempted. It's also, I'm going to point out here, anybody who's ever seen Cactus Jack or Mick Foley can tell you about the scars on his arm. And at one point in this match, we see Mick Foley lying on the barbed wire bed, and you see that it is stuck into his arm, and as he's pulling it away, you can see it ripping his flesh. So I think this is where those famous scars have come from. The match ends with Cactus Jack, DDT, and Nakamaki onto the barbed wire. So now, at least he goes down to that. So now we have Cactus Jack versus Terry Funk in the finals in their famous match. Before we get to the finals, we have more filler. Now we have the Headhunters versus the team of Silver King and El Texano, the notable team of Los Cowboys, for those who remember them from WCW briefly. Silver King is also famous, of course, because of his run in WCW. He was also the third Black Tiger, and he played Ramses in the movie Nacho Libre. It's actually a pretty decent tag match with both of the smaller Mexican wrestlers trying to defeat the larger Headhunters, but they end up losing eventually and losing the IWA tag titles. The Headhunters end up doing a top rope assisted powerbomb like you'd see the Dudleys or the Pitbulls do. I wasn't expecting this match to be anything very good, but it was decent. Maybe just compared to everything else, it just stood out as better, but I thought it was a good little match. I never was a fan of the Headhunters, but they do a good job here. So now we have the NWA World title match as Dan Severn takes on Tarzan Goto. The match starts off with Severn trying to keep it in the ring as a regular wrestling match where he severely outclasses Goto, but things break down when eventually they go outside and it turns into a big brawl, and Goto ends up smashing Severn many times with many chairs and burying him and leaving him laying. This leads to Goto going back in the ring. Severn gets up and he's pissed looking. He's holding up the chairs. He's like hulking out and everything. If only he showed this much emotion during his WWF run, they probably might have kept him around. So they go back in, they wrestle a much more aggressive match, and Dan Severn wins with a rear naked choke. Actually, it was nice. This was decent because I like the story they were trying to tell with Goto forcing Severn out of his regular element and making him do something that he normally wouldn't do. He still ended up losing, but it's, the story worked. And then they get on the mic after, and Severn says next time he comes back to Japan, he wants to take on Goto again, but wants the IWA title on the line. I don't know if this match ever happened. I looked at Wikipedia, and I didn't see any record of Severn holding this title, so I don't know if this ever got to happen or not, but they do a story here, so that's cool. So now we have the tournament finals with Terry Funk versus Cactus Jack in a no-rope barbed wire match with explosions. This is a famous match between these two, and it's funny to think that we all saw a repeat of this match in the WWF at the time, at WrestleMania 14 no less. But then when Mike Tyson got involved and all the press was being made, they didn't want like a crazy match with barbed wire and blood and explosions on WrestleMania, making wrestling look bad. Probably a smart choice, I think. So they spend a lot of the match with their movement restricted because on top of everything else there's also beds of barbed wire in every corner, so they spend most of the match staying away from those. Turns out when somebody is dropped on those beds, they're meant to explode too in like a puff of smoke, and you can even see the fire afterwards. Needless to say, I think both guys did get away from this match with severe burns on them, so that's the damage you take sometimes. And on top of all that, there's actually a time limit, and then after that expires, the ring is meant to explode, but the effect totally doesn't work. It just, each corner goes off in like a puff of smoke, and it's very unimpressive looking. And even Terry Funk, he was in the ring at the time. He just gets up, he's just shrugging his shoulders and saying to the crowd, "I'm sorry." I'm not even kidding about that. I've seen a shoot interview where he does say that is what he's doing right now. He's shrugging to the crowd saying, "Yeah, sorry, that sucked." And after that, I mean, they obviously just blew their load, and that was the big moment they were building to, and there was nothing left to do. So after that, it's pretty sluggish. Ends up with Cactus Jack up on a ladder. Terry Funk pulls him off, and they both fall down. And then Cactus Jack rolls over and pins him after nothing, really. So it just seems kind of silly. I don't know why this match got the reputation that it did. It's just a weird ending to this weird DVD. So that's the best of Deathmatch Wrestling Volume 3, the legendary Japanese tournament. Really doesn't hold up. It's really silly in spots with stuff like the sword and the chainsaw and the other garbage wrestling. I already said why I don't think that works. I mean, it's kind of infamous to own. If you can find this for cheap, there's a novelty to it. There's a couple matches that are good. Cactus Jack versus Terry Gordy is good. The Headhunters versus the Los Cowboys was good. Other than that, though, I'd probably stay away. Unless you just want to own this because it's wrestling history, there's really no point in owning it, so... This is Brave Sir Robin, signing off, and see you next time.